Welcome back to another educational video. Today I'm going to hopefully get you to become a pro box fighter in Fortnite Battle Royale. This video is going to be broken up into several parts. There's going to be four main topics, the first being the theory behind box fighting, the next being aggressive playing in box fighting, then passive playing in box fighting, and last but not least, how to play the end game in box fighting. Now let's get into it. So starting off with the theory behind box fights. Now this is going to be broken up into four sections, the first being real estate. Now what I mean by real estate in box fight is the idea that there's a limited amount of space inside the box fighting map and you need to try and claim as much of it as yours as possible. That means trying to take as many walls, as many floors, as many cones or ramps as possible early on to stop enemies taking it later on. The next thing is going to be material conservation. What I mean by this is not just materials as in brick, metal and wood. I also mean things like your meds and your ammo. So for example, when holding a wall, to not hold it for too long because you're just wasting materials, and if you've lost 10 health, to not just pop a slurp fish for no reason, things like that. The next thing is going to be profit exchange. Now this is a really good idea to have in your mind at all times when playing box fight. You need to be dealing more damage than you're taking. It's a really simple profit exchange principle, but you need to be dealing it and not taking it. That means not overcommitting too early and not taking fights you know you're going to lose, because a lot of the time people YOLO it for no reason. And the last but not least is something that everyone needs to keep in mind with box fighting. Editing speed is not everything. People think that just because I edit really quick, or anyone else edits really quick, that you have to edit quick when box fighting. You do not. You really do not. Box fighting is about piece control and claiming as many builds as yours as possible, not editing through those builds as quickly as possible. It's about taking pieces, trapping opponents and stopping them from going places. You're trying to trap them in boxes that aren't theirs, so you have as many angles as possible on them and stopping them doing damage to you while doing as much as you can to them. Aggression is the next part of the video, and this is going to consist of 5 different topics, the first being wall taking. Now, especially when playing against low ping players, it can be really hard to take walls. There are a few different tips and tricks I can give you. The first one being trying to be sporadic when you hit the walls. Maybe hitting it once, waiting a while for them to try and psych it out, and then hitting it again, then trying to take it. If that doesn't work, always spraying the wall is always another good option. Using your AR to spray the wall and then take the wall doing that. That's also a really good way to take walls. And the other way is what I'm showing now, which is trying to place a ramp inside their box instead of trying to go for the wall. That means that they have to then destroy the ramp because of how uncomfortable it makes them feel, and while they're destroying it, you can then hold and take the wall. So what do you do once you get the wall? Well, that's simple really. It's up to you. You have complete and utter control over what you do. I'm going to show you really quickly some of the moves that I like to use a lot in box fighting that are some of the safest and most unpredictable and some of the ones that throw off your opponents the most. Say if you're against an opponent that has absolutely nothing inside of his box, he has not got a ramp or a cone. Well, this is what you can do once you take his wall. By the way, that's an amateur mistake. Always have something inside your box to stop what's about to happen happening to you. Once you've taken their wall, the quickest, most effective way to do it is just to simply put a ramp inside their box. That's the one that most people use, but instead I'm going to show you what to do instead, which is a Ripire revel. So once you have their wall, you edit this. So a bottom corner edit on the right hand side, not on the left, because the left hand side doesn't give you a right hand peak like the right hand side does. You place it like this, and then you want to aim your cone at the bottom corner. So imagine if I was doing this full speed, I'd just be doing like this. Then once the cone is in the box, I edit the corner of the cone so it's flush with the edit that's on the wall. Then I hold the re-edit so I can see where my enemy is and position myself accordingly. Say if he was over in that corner, I'll go over here. If he's over there, I can pop up anywhere and surprise him. I then let go and then bang, shoot him. He doesn't know where I'm going to pop up, so it's always a really good move to use. So say if you're against a really high-end opponent, that even opening a simple edit like that would cause them to shoot you. Well, there's a different way to do it, which is getting a really subtle angle like this, where you open the window edit on the far right and aiming your crosshair in the window and placing a cone like that and then re-editing it. You can then, once the cone's inside their box, go into a normal Ripire revel. So just do it like this and then bang, shoot them. If you're not comfortable with jumping inside someone's box, that's okay as well, because you can just take their wall and then place a cone in like we showed before, and instead of jumping inside their box doing a Ripire revel, you could do a Dorito edit, where you could just go like this and jump up and shoot them. This makes sure that your head is only just available. They can only see your head when you can see all of them and give them a nice old tag to the body or head. There's also classic moves like the Mongrel Classic, where you open a huge edit and then place a ramp inside their box. So if you're wondering how to do this really fast, is to actually make the edit. This is, by the way, in slow motion. Is to make a massive edit like this, hold down right click. I have edit on release on, by the way, and then keep holding down right click and press F to confirm instead of letting off right click, and then also hold the ramp button the second you let go or click F. So it's immediately in their box. There's no delay. It's straight away in their box. You can then edit like this and shoot them. But I normally just do something like this, where you take it and you just do like that. That throws them off really, really quickly because they're not expecting to have that in their box that quickly. It's a bit of a known strategy right now, so everyone knows about it, but there's still not really a great way to counter it, so it's still a really viable, amazing move to use. Anticipation is the next part, and that's something that's huge in box fighting. Trying to predict what your opponent's about to do, or pre-firing their box when they're about to make an edit so you hit them immediately. Or in this case, placing a cone and editing a cone in front of a wall that you know your opponent's behind, so when they open their edit, you're protected with the cone. You can then re-edit the cone and shoot them, and then re-edit the cone again to block them in case they try and shoot you back. Now, it sounds quite complicated, but as you're seeing on screen, it's quite a simple thing, and it doesn't have to be with a cone, it could be with a ramp or anything really. It's all situation dependent, but I like to do that a lot, is place a cone in front of someone's wall that I'm about to try and take or that I'm about to try and push, so that when they open up a wall edit to try and shoot me, it just hits the cone instead. The next thing is something that I do a lot, and it's something that I need to change, which is overcommitting too early. So what I mean by this is try and jump into your opponent's box when you haven't even done much damage to them. As a general rule of thumb, I would try and break their shield before jumping into their box. So, because more likely they're going to get a mini or two off before you jump in anyway. So maybe breaking their shield and then tagging them once more is a good time to then try and push them and get inside their box. Any earlier than that, you risk doing a full-on 50-50, and most of the time you're probably going to get out-aimed unless you have really, really good aim. The next thing isn't spoken enough about in box fight, and that's just staying calm. If all your walls are taken and you're fully boxed in, don't give up. Just concentrate on your opponent and watch them. Watch them so when they make an edit, you can shoot before they can even pull out their gun. And just make sure to concentrate on hitting your shots, because you've got to remember, you have no way out at this point, and you need to hit big shots to try and live, really. The last thing is going to be to play a little game I made up called Survivor, where all you have to do is basically play with another person in box fight. They drop their guns, and you basically have to try and kill them as quickly as possible, and their goal is to try and survive as long as possible. So this is both in the aggressive and the defensive categories of this video, but it's a really good way to try and practice both being really aggressive and ending fights quickly and effectively, as well as try and survive as long as you can. So it's a bit of both, but I thought I'd throw it into the aggressive and the defensive because of its nature. So we're now on the second to last part of the video, which is the defensive part. Now this is really, really crucial. This is healing and how to actually get away from a fight, how to disengage. Say if you overcommitted early on and you need to get back and try and heal. Well, there's a load of different ways, but I'm going to be explaining to you really quickly on how you do this effectively every time. So the first thing is something I've raised in multiple videos now, which is placing ramps behind you. If you look vertically down when trying to hold out a ramp and you're in the middle of a block, by that I mean part of the grid that naturally forms on the Fortnite island, it will place a ramp behind you, covering your back. If you ever feel like someone has a line of sight on you and they can see you, do this to stop them shooting at you in anticipation. So you're doing this to prevent them shooting at you, not if they're already shooting you, but it also is a remedy if that is the case. Now this should go without saying, but trying to heal is really hard in box fight because of how small the area is. So you want to maximise the distance between you and your enemy. So that normally means going on the opposite side of the map or underneath them, so if there's a different layer. So you want to try and make sure there's as many layers of walls, ramps, whatever, from you and your enemy. This gives you enough time to heal. You also don't want to always commit to one box when healing. You don't have to try and use all your meds at one go. You can pop a mini, change box, and then go on the other side of the map. Now they've moved over to where you are. Then they're a different location again, so there's more distance between you again. You can then pop another mini or like a slurp fish. This is one of the most effective ways to heal because they can't pin you down because you're moving while healing. Something I don't see a lot of people doing, which is something really stupid in my opinion, is when they're weak, they don't go back to where they spawned. When you spawn in on box fight, you can claim as many pieces as you want because no one else is there to contest you. So when you're weak, go back to the location because all of it is going to be yours. This means that if an enemy's trying to push you, you don't have to worry about them editing on you because it's all yours first. They have to take the wall before they can try and shoot you. This then allows you to get plenty of heals off and then even escape because these are your walls. You can edit through them and just go out the other way to where they are. Now this next bit is quite hard to try and stick to, but it's something I generally try and stick to myself, which is never going on the far left or the far right to heal. Now this is really simple, but also something that people forget a lot, because on the far left or the far right there's one wall you cannot take because it's a wall that is the end of the box. This means that there's an area where you cannot escape because there's a solid wall, so you cannot try and get out that way. That means it's easier for enemies to pin you down and try and shoot into you while you're trying to heal. This obviously applies if it's the back left or the back right as well, because then you have two walls that aren't takeable, so take it how you want it, but it's just trying to avoid those locations, so maybe one block in from those locations, so it's not in the middle, but it's also not on the very edge. Lastly, I want to recommend again trying to play Survivor so you can try and learn how to get away from someone pushing you even though you have nothing to work with. Just try and survive as long as you can, so it's something I'd really recommend to practice. So the last section is a section that I wasn't really too sure to even put into the video, but I decided to do it anyway because it didn't really fall into any other category, and that's going to be the end game of Fortnite Box Fight. Now when I'm talking about the end game, what I mean is when the zone is almost fully closed in. Now this doesn't really happen very often in box fight because most of the time people have died and the game's already over before the zone even comes in. But if the zone is coming all the way in and you know you have more heals than your opponent, don't bother fighting them. Instead, just go as deep as you can into zone, behind as many layers of walls as you can, and just hide underneath the cone as far as you can from them, on a different layer entirely, maybe above them, maybe below them, and just wait it out for them to die in zone. Now something that everyone should know, but I'm going to say it anyway just in case you don't. Slurpfish heal for 40 health, so there's no point in using it until you're on 60 health, otherwise it's just a waste, and it's just time that you're wasting. The same applies for floppers and any other white med, so just make sure you know how much it heals for and therefore when to use it. Now if you're on the other side of the coin and you're actually trying to find the person that's got all the heals, there's only a few things you can really do, and that is kind of hard. You have to sort of concentrate on the noise and try and find out where they're going just by listening to them, or before the zone even fully closes in, instead of trying to wait for that time to zone to fully close in, just try and spray up and down, try and find out where they are and try and kill them before they run off. Well, that's going to sum off today's video. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, please leave a like and a comment saying so. But to this video, goodbye.